Hi, everybody. This is day 1305. And let's see what is, if I'm on, make sure that I'm on. Just go into Facebook right now just to check if you, um, yep, seems that, okay, I'm on. There it is. That was quick. So today, just have a few minutes left in my dad's birthday. Rest in peace, Dad. Thinking about him all day. He was there. He was there in El Paso. Um, Matter of fact, right before he passed away, he's just like, I wish we could find him. I wish we could find Richard. Um, Richard is his namesake. And, when Richard graduated, he, I called him from Europe and I said, hey, Dad, um, Richard's graduating. We didn't even realize that he was going to be distinguished honor graduate. Richard didn't tell us that, you know. He wasn't a braggart at all, and um, so many things. I wish he did tell us a little bit more, but very protective, and we didn't realize he was going to be distinguished honor graduate. But I called my dad and my mom, and I was talking to him, and I was saying, he's going to graduate, and I really want to be there. I want someone there for him. Uh, do you think you could make it? Go all the way to Fort Sill from Virginia? And he says, "Oh yeah, no problem, no problem." And so he made arrangements, and my mom and dad drove all the way there, and um, and got to film his graduation as Distinguished Honor Graduate from Basic Training and AIT. And my dad had some worries even then because he helped Richard go into the barracks there at AIT, and he was not happy about what he saw. And that was coming from, a sergeant from an NCO. My dad, retired sergeant, and he was not happy with what he saw. So yeah, he was telling me um, that when he would talk to Richard, he had a huge worry because they were hiding the guidon, right? They were hiding the guidon. They were playing practical jokes, and he goes, "What are you talking about? The guidon's not there. The guidon, the colors for the unit are supposed to have a very honored place." And for them to do that revealed to my dad that there was no esprit de corps. And he kept telling me, this is the problem. There's no esprit de corps. Something is happening. Something is not good. Something is not right. And um, so, we went into this looking for Richard, keeping our minds open. I absolutely had told our children that I believe that someone that he was dead, okay? Because of not contacting us, and that would just not that was just not like Richard. Um, so that was my gut feeling in all of this because of Captain Yoshida shaking and crying. That was my gut feeling that they were keeping something from us, that Richard um, was dead. But because of a lifelong loyalty and trust to the U.S. Army, we uh, just gave them the benefit of the doubt. We, I even remember a conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Payne, the PAO, Allie Payne. I told her on the phone from the very beginning because we knew that something was not right, that they were keeping something from us. But I said, look, Um, we want a win for the Army and a win for us, for Richard. Just tell us, you know. And I told her we wouldn't go to the press, um, because that was her concern, was bad press with Vanessa Guillen body being found in such a state that it was, being all chopped up and burnt, and people need to know that. People, I talk to people right now that don't know about Vanessa Guillen, and I think that that needs to go out there, um, so that our leadership will change, right? Because this is a leadership problem, and Vanessa Guillen was a whistleblower. She was an absolute victim, whistleblower, which it makes the crime that much worse because she was not protected, just like Richard was not protected. And hearing, I didn't know about her either. So when Richard went missing, people would tell us, of course. And so I told the Army, I don't know what happened with her, how that all happened at Fort Hood. I knew the problems at Fort Hood. I met my husband at Fort Hood. I was a teacher at in Killeen at People's Elementary. That's where I met my husband. So I know that area. I know the Leon River. I know, I just Boughton Lake. I know that area. My alma mater is Mary Hardin Baylor. So, absolutely, I but I didn't know all the circumstances surrounding that. And they had a smear campaign on even Vanessa Guillen, the Army did. But when they found her remains in that state, they couldn't continue that, you see. And this is what happened to Asia Graham. Um, they had weaponized the system against her also. And when they found her in the barracks, deceased, they couldn't continue that weaponization. Um, the same thing with Glendon Oakley Jr. They weaponized the system against him clearly, and you haven't heard anything really about him. So this is what needs to change. And at the very early on, we didn't know all of this, and we counted ourselves, Rob being a 30-year veteran from the Army, um, as part of them, but we're not, because our military has been infiltrated. The 44 four-star generals and admirals have betrayed us. There is no other way to explain the state of our military and what is happening. There's no other way. They have betrayed us. And so many of our service members are being harmed. Our military, instead of being our protectors, being our defense, has become a gravy train for the enemies of this country. And, you might not believe me, but to all of my knowledge, what I know right now, I'm telling you the absolute truth, and I would swear on the Bible. And so I know that it is hard, because it would be very difficult for me if I weren't in this situation, to believe what I'm about to tell you. And I think that exposing the FBI supervisory agent there in El Paso has been very helpful in re- revealing, having hard evidence for the community to believe what Team Find Richard Halliday is saying. Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr., being raised there, many people in the El Paso community know him because he's from there. Why is he the FBI supervisory agent there? And why, we believe, why is his wife, this is our intelligence telling us this, his wife working on Fort Bliss um, in a very sensitive position, also in a leadership position. And with who? With Bradford Bugado, right? With Lieutenant Colonel Bugado, the son-in-law of Nadal Baim, the FBI man. These, the conflicts of interest in that group that extends to a larger group is so shocking. And I think that it has revealed the not only the fact that there was a cover up going, but that there was something even worse. Even worse. Because, Nieto exposing FBI agent Nieto um, lets people understand why Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal, a perpetual criminal, you know, that's the worst type of criminal, is a perpetual criminal, because our system is designed so that we have mercy and grace on offenders. We, want to rehabilitate. We want to give them a second chance. We let them do some time and then get out and start a new life, and we try funding the prisons so that the prisons can, they're supposed to give them a skill or whatever so that they can be productive citizens when they get out. Now the system isn't really working, right? The system isn't working. But that is um, our country's um, funding of all of this. Our thoughts behind it is for mercy and grace for first time offenders, right? It's like this 3 strikes and you're out. Um, for first and second, we are uh, very tolerant, even for some are, more tolerant than really what I would be or what God is. But that's how our society is. And we absolutely understand that because each and every one of us has made mistakes in life and gotten into certain situations and whatever. Um, and we always require, of course, every one of us require mercy and grace. So, that's the kind of society that we are. But when someone is a perpetual criminal, like Leilani Hart, a convicted perpetual criminal, like Ernest Christopher Grant, Chris Grant, the media sweetheart. And it seems like Leilani Hart is also, her family are media sweethearts. Um, so, when they're using unreliable sources like perpetual criminals, um, and they are protecting them and not arresting them and not prosecuting them. Because, see, this is a system. Um, you have Veronica Escobar, the representative, not demanding that from the FBI, which she absolutely could. The FBI being so steeped in conflicts of interest, all kinds of connections, because he's from El Paso. So, of course, he has friendships and business ties and family ties and favors that people ask that he knows that probably had mercy and grace when he was growing up. I mean, when you grow up in that area, you cannot be the FBI supervisory agent. You cannot. So I don't know. It just shows that there's something else going on. And for his wife, as far as intelligence goes, to have the position um, that she does is also pretty shocking. And what position am I talking about? Well, maybe I shouldn't even, I don't think I even should give that out yet. But a very important position on Fort Bliss absolutely would be involved in Richard's case. So that is, the conflicts of interest are huge. And absolutely, there is a conflict of interest with Nieto and Ernest Christopher Grant. Okay? Because why didn't he arrest him? He absolutely knew with his media presence that he had an open um, warrant out for his arrest. Same thing with the El Paso Police Department. Very, very clear. So, um, us exposing that is huge evidence that something very wrong was going on um, in El Paso with the law enforcement because of Soto. Now we have, oh gosh, so much evidence to that he's a dirty agent. We have audio that shows that Tavita Nusa um, had to turn in his badge, that he lost his badge. And this shows that Marlon Soto, the CID agent in charge, that failed to uh, have an internal affairs investigation and also, you know, on Tavita Nusa for having an adulterous sex act uh, continuously with a convicted criminal, Leilani Hart, that was getting favors in the CID for her notarized criminal complaint to be submitted and accepted and then referred to the FBI, Nieto, um, and accepted also by the FBI to seek revenge on her husband and then not be arrested for uh, that kind of scheming and false reporting. Not that all of it is false, but that they say it's false and that they don't have her arrested. So, there's the whole exposure of that and then reaching in to the DA's office. You see, it's just one thing after the next that we've been exposing. The FBI, Chris Grant, which exposes Deborah Sifford of Customs and Border Protectors, which exposes even more because of her conflicts of interest, and then exposing the CID and Anthony Swafford exposing the military police there on Fort Bliss, and of course Nadal Baim exposing the FBI, but with that report that he gave to the cashier that we have the video of Richard's remains being found in Mexico, it triggered us calling the Department of State there in Chihuahua, Mexico, in Juarez, Mexico, and they confirmed to us that they were indeed Americans, FBI, looking on foreign soil for a soldier's remains. Now that is huge. And so we went over there to, when we were in El Paso, we went over there to Juarez, Mexico, to the state of Chihuahua, to that uh, law enforcement to submit a statement. Rob did that, and it was tampered with. It was tampered with, and there was, um, yeah, there was one person that helped with that, and to have it tampered with like that is so evil, so evil. I don't know how he can sleep at night. This is our suspicion, and so that is what we're working on to get confirmed, which would expose even more um, that Chihuahua, Mexico, um, was misled, and that Rob's statement there for missing his missing son was tampered with to say the most despicable things. Um, yeah, this is what happens when you have to get something translated, and yeah, um, you have to be very, very careful. That's that lesson. That's that lesson. So we're working on that one. Um, but just all the agencies involved, and of course the DA's office. Um, Jaime Esparza, he's totally exposed. He is so exposed because absolutely he knew what I'm about to tell you. Um, so let's just read it. We've been working on it, and I hope this helps. We're of course, documenting everything, and we are very transparent, which puts us in danger, absolutely puts us in danger. But who's going to do this? You know, I put up uh, Henry V's speech. We the few, we the happy few, we the band of brothers. You know, when we have victory, we might have to show our scars, of course. I mean, look at Richard. He's my scar, the scar on my heart, what they did to him. But we, the happy few, that could conquer these evildoers that have betrayed us and betrayed our system, betrayed our voluntary sons and daughters, these young sons and daughters, 18, 17, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, that are looking for mentors, that are looking to be disciplined into servants of this country. And they were betrayed, right? So we, the happy few that stand up against these these evil demons, these enemies, these yeah, uh, this day will be remembered, St. Crispin's Day, when those that were not there count themselves lesser men, right? Those that did not help count themselves lesser men. Do not find yourself in that situation. Get on the team. Find Richard Halliday's. Um, uh, I want to say bandwagon, but it's not a bandwagon. This is um, active um, exposure of the enemy, and they don't like that. They don't like the light. You see, they operate in the dark. And Nieto was operating in the dark. And Marlon Soto was operating in the dark. And Lilani Hart operating in the dark. They're at Dreams Cabaret. And so that's why there's the ghosting, the darkness that is covering the shadow that's covering Chris Grant right now, Ernest Chris Grant. And also Tavita Nusa. Where is he? Right? and also the shadow that's over the DA's office, and the shadow that's over Veronica Escobar, and the shadow that's over these generals, and the shadow that's over Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. Total shadow over him. And I would even say over Judge Madrano, a shadow over Judge Madrano. And there's other judges like Judge Robert Shook, a shadow over him. And so we're in the light. Come join us. Do not be left behind where you have, when there's victory, when you have to say, oh, I'm a lesser person because I wasn't there and I had my chance. I had my chance to fight against these shadows of darkness, and I didn't bring my torch. I didn't uh, expose these evil people and free our El Paso, free our community from the grips, because they have just, let me read you our statement, and you will, at the end of this, hopefully you'll write your own speech of St. Crispin's Day, right? Henry VIII. You'll write your own Band of Brothers speech to expose these people that have gripped the community of El Paso, and want to free that community, that beautiful city on the border, right there with Mexico. And of course, everything that happens in El Paso um, affects what's happening in Juarez, Mexico. So let's do some good. And so we put together this investigative theory to help everyone understand our position as Team Find Richard Halliday. Okay? And so it's called the disappearance as a coordinated effort, right? The disappearance as a coordinated effort. Um, so we've recorded and documented hard evidence, irregularities, and circumstantial evidence that absolutely suggests that Richard Halliday's disappearance was not a random event, right? But rather a coordinated effort involving multiple parties with various motives. So, according to our investigation, this investigative theory, Richard Halliday stumbled upon information because I had talked to him, and he said, "Mom, it's so bad. It's just so bad. I do not want to be an NCO. I don't want to go green to gold. I just want to get out." Okay, this is from the Distinguished Honor Graduate. So, absolutely, he knew, he stumbled upon, and um, and he exposed it. He made complaints, um, and this posed a threat to certain individuals and organizations, including the U.S. Army, including law enforcement agencies, because remember, right when he got there, he inquired how to be CID. And so all of this narrative, this smear narrative that he, wanted to get into crime is baloney, baloney, because we have it on record. Not only that he's our son and we know better, but that we have it on record that he inquired to be CID. Now, you're not going to be 18 years old, right? Um, 18 years old and say, I want to be CID, but you're a criminal. No, unless you're from a criminal family and been groomed that way, you're not going to do that. And so that's really, that narrative has been totally bunked. So, so what he was reporting was absolutely a threat to certain individuals, organizations, and even those in the U.S. Army, on Fort Bliss, and law enforcement agencies, including CID. That means Soto, that means Tavita Nusa, and that means Lalani Hart, right? Requiring them to create diversionary tactics. They had to create a diversion because you have to remember um, the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. And the opposition party was in office. Trump was in office at that time. So, absolutely, there was a fear of the investigations. This led to the orchestrating of August 3rd, 2019 Walmart mass shooting. Because these are the same people, okay? It's the same people. Same people, same conflicts of interest. Um, and also Richard's subsequent disappearance and murder to conceal their wrongdoing and avoid scrutiny. The orchestrators of August 3rd, 2019, and August 3rd is Dallas Hart's birthday, which is very interesting. I don't think there's any coincidences in this. So, that shooting incident sought to achieve multiple outcomes. One, they used the incident as a diversionary tactic to redirect attention away from the subsequent investigations that were triggered by Richard. Um, Absolutely, whatever he was whistleblowing on, and we know what they were, the weapons smuggling, the misappropriation of funds. Okay, absolutely. Human trafficking, um, the drugs. Also, intelligence is telling us that he was complaining about being mistreated. So, in many different ways. So, two, they aim to strike fear in the public consciousness as part of a calculated strategy to achieve political objectives, particularly the passage of the insane, exorbitant $1.2 billion bond for the construction of the new police station in El Paso. Recognizing that instilling widespread fear and apprehension among the populace would create a conducive environment for rallying support behind the bond proposition. Now, this is all over the internet. You can find it. And absolutely, they tried to pass it before. It did not pass. They did pass. It wasn't the 1.2 billion, but they got hundreds of millions for this bond. And for El Paso, that is just insanity because they're in debt, right? And then to add something like this on when it was totally unnecessary and it doesn't cost that much money. Okay? So that was highway robbery of El Pasoans. It was really extortion. It was real. It's just plain hatred for the people of El Paso and the future of El Paso. That's what that was. These people are greedy, very greedy and very evil. And they strategically crafted a false narrative to go along with the horrendous crime, portraying the incident as a hate crime committed by a lone gunman with white supremacist ideologies, sensationalizing the incident in the media. They used several people, and the leader of that was Chris Grant. Okay? That was his job, sensationalizing the incident in the media as a hate crime. And they capitalized on public fear and outrage to discredit the political opponents through targeting, messaging, and media manipulation. They sought to portray their rivals as complicit in the violence, and they absolutely did that. They blamed it on MAGA, they blamed it on Trump, they tried to make them um, complicit in that violence. On Even Veronica Escobar refused to even meet with President Trump when he came to give his condolences. It's all over the news. This is um, like I said, we have been investigating, documenting, collecting all kinds of evidence. It's very clear that this was one of their objectives, um, because what happened to Patrick Crusius, who Patrick Crusius is, it's one day, one picture, couple pictures will tell you that the narrative is a false narrative that Chris Grant put out there. And even El Paso Police Department could not stomach what Chris Grant was saying. They had to refute him. And of course, so did other media. So the orchestrators of August 3rd, 2019 incident intentionally crafted that false narrative, exploiting Patrick Crusius with a severe mental health condition. And they kept that condition from the public. They could not hide it that he is autistic. They could not hide it forever. And so even the judge said in the sentencing that Patrick Crusius needed treatment for his severe mental health condition. Okay? This is very important. And you can read it in the judge's words, not mine, the judge's words. Um, and they did that in order to gain political leverage, advantage over their rivals in the upcoming election. Absolutely. This narrative was perpetuated despite evidence indicating Crusius's suffering from the severe mental health condition, because you could see it. I saw it. It didn't take me but a few videos, and I'm like, wait a minute, he is not um, he is not what they say he is. There's no way. And this is where I think Judge Madrano is very. I just have a lot of suspicions about him, and he will be exposed too, because he's already being exposed for just lately, just sitting there like a statue when Joe Spencer is showing him videos of Bill Hicks's many interviews breaking the gag order and doing nothing and doing nothing. Yeah. So there's just so much evidence out there. They can't keep these stones, these rocks of stones, these stones of truth from rising. Right? You cannot keep the truth down. You just cannot do it. So this narrative that was perpetuated was exposed by the judge, confirming Crusius's condition at the sentencing. So that is that revelation of his diagnosis. Just breaks, challenges the narrative of the lone wolf hate fueled rampage. Patrick Crusius could not do this on his own. There's no way. And then this all hate filled thing, he refuted during the interviews. You could see him on during the trial, in the court you could see him. And also when he surrendered in clean shoes and clean clothes to a Hispanic police officer just minutes after he is supposed to have done this hate-filled 1,000 bullet soda popping, um, shooting people in the most horrendous ways, and he's supposed to be, you know, uh, crazy, right, in this rampage, but yet he gets in his getaway car. Absolutely, there were getaway cars. Absolutely, no matter what you say, there was a getaway car because he got into his getaway car and drove to the Hispanic police officer and surrendered himself, all clean, all clean, clean shoes. His tennis shoes, white soles on the bottom, totally clean, you know, pants totally clean, and it was even in the evidence that we've collected um, in the media, reported that his Miranda rights were not even given. Okay, they forgot to give him his Miranda rights when here I am, I'm the killer, I'm the mass shooter, um, and they did not bag his hands. Now, if every law enforcement officer knows that if you have a shooter there, you have to bag their hands because they have the gunpowder on their hands, and that is evidence. And so you have to protect that evidence. And then, of course, we have the tampering of the crime scene itself, which is the Walmart area, and probably more. So, this distraction uh, allowed the perpetrators to operate with impunity, evading scrutiny and accountability for their actions while, their criminal syndicate, their criminal enterprise, while Richard Halliday's disappearance and the circumstances surrounding it remained shrouded in chaos and confusion. And of course, COVID played a big part in this. The whole COVID mandate played a big part in this. And I probably should add that to this. Overall, the motive behind the August 3rd, 2019 El Paso incident, according to this investigative theory, was driven by a calculated desire to suppress incriminating information, divert attention away from Richard Halliday's whistleblowing activities, safeguard the interests of those implicated in his exposés, pass an exorbitant amount, $1.2 billion bond, and politically attack their rivals in the upcoming 2020 election. Very clear, very clear. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure that we tell everybody what Team Find Richard Halliday has found out, and we are moving forward with even more. We would not present this to you without evidence, without piles of evidence, because we love our military, we love our law enforcement, we love our community, we love El Paso, um, and but they have been infiltrated and used and abused by Nieto, by Soto, by Bill Hicks, by Jaime Esparza, by John Briggs. Don't forget John Briggs, by convicted criminal Leilani Hart, by James Hart, by Dallas Hart, by Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, by Tavita Nusa, by Donna Sifford, by Ernest Christopher Grant, by uh, Sean Bernabe, by Major General Matlock, by Major General Clem Coward, by Sergeant Major Jakovitz, um, by the MPs there that were misled and not trained to scrutinize such absolute terrible policy, you know, uh, to say, oh, yeah, we're going to smear this soldier, and so that way you don't have to look for him. What kind of policy is that? By PAO Ali Payne, by El Paso Matters Bob Moore, by KTEP's Angela Kacherga, who absolutely has conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest. Um, so many conflicts of interest. Okay. And so, by the leadership of Park University, by the leadership of UTEP, and of course by Felix Valenzuela, by Justin Underwood. Um, and there are others. There's a lot of others, not all, but a lot. And of course, Dreams Cabaret. Of course, 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, and some others, Van Buren Avenue. Ann Ogle, let's not forget Ann Ogle. Let's not have the administrator for CYS, professor at Park University. And what about DES Thomas Kane? Our exposures, um, has even exposed the the chief of security of Fort Bliss, has exposed the JAG, Judge Robert Shook. I hope I mentioned him, and Judge Madrano. Um, and why do we want to expose? Because they were carrying out a criminal enterprise that was uh, they orchestrated a mass shooting. They orchestrated a mass shooting so that they could even financially benefit from it with passing a million. Well, they wanted 1.2, 1.3 billion dollars. Billion with a B. That is insanity. And it turned out to be hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions. And so, with all of the evidence that we have, absolutely, we know that they retaliated um, by disappearing Richard, by murdering Richard, by uh, trying, probably succeeding with him, what they tried to do with Vanessa Guillen, because they've hid his remains for a long time, 3.5 years. They never intended anyone to find Vanessa Guillen. She was supposed to spend her life in that foxhole. No, I want Richard's remains. And and we've exposed even the medical examiner. Don't forget about that. Mario Rascon Ortiz, and he has conflicts of interest with even 3905 Bliss Avenue, which means that's Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, which means that's the Rochas, which means that's Danae Katzen, right? So, yeah, we want everyone to hear what we have found, so that you can be one of the happy few, the band of brothers, to take on this monster that has gripped El Paso, in the form of our institutions, our agencies, our law enforcement, our DA office, our DA office that is supposed to be the prosecutors of these criminals. So, and I hope that you share and comment and like and speak to people about this. That is what puts you in that band of brothers, the Team Find Richard Halliday band of brothers, to fight for righteousness and the glory of God. Absolutely. And what better time to do it than during Lent? Um, yeah, this is the 40 days and the 40 nights where we do selfless service. Selfless service. That whole loyalty, respect, um, selfless service, uh, personal courage, all of those things that esprit de corps teaches. And, I was so fortunate to be loved by Richard Schnabel, right? My dad. To be taught the good things, to be taught the good things, honesty, integrity. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. Um, Thank you, Maria, Elena. Thank you for your prayers. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow uh, with more information. And just keep praying and join us in fighting for this, for the righteousness, um, exposing these people and free El Paso and free Fort Bliss. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Bye bye.